Hi, class. In this video, I'm going to describe how to approach the final paper, the ethical dilemma paper in this class. So this is a logic course, logic/critical thinking. And so we've been examining arguments the whole time. So now what you're going to do is you're going to make an argument. Now, let me just say that you don't have to believe the outcome that you're arguing for. And in fact, I often recommend to students to argue for a position that's different from the one that they believe in. This is an extremely useful activity. One thing about most of the beliefs that require judgment, very complex issues, economy, religion, politics, family, is that it's not like 2 + 2 = 4, right? 100% of the time, 2 + 2 = 4. We know it's true. Items that require judgment are things that change over time. Think about the things you believed when you were a young child versus what you believe now versus what you believe as an adult. Think about all the knowledge that has grown over time. You know, one thing people used to be able to smoke on airplanes. Can you imagine? And everybody's like, yeah, we're just smoking on the airplane, whatever. Like, who cares about cancer or whatever? Over time, knowledge increases, things develop, and we change our beliefs. So we shouldn't cling dogmatically to questions of judgment. We should be open to dialogue so that we can learn from other people. And remember that when you read a book, you're actually in dialogue with that author as well, or an article or whatever. But so that we can learn from people to refine our beliefs, because we can never know everything there is to know about even one thing, right? You could study politics every day from the time you woke up to the time you went to sleep, and you wouldn't get through 1% of all the articles, information, books ever created about politics. And you could probably only study American, United States politics, let alone Mexican, Canadian, Middle Eastern. It's, anyway, all that to say, choose something that you're interested in, but consider arguing for the opposing position. That was kind of like a big, you might be thinking like, just get on with it, Justin. And you wouldn't be the first person to say that. But I'm trying to frame it for you. So think of it that way. Think of it as this like big open-ended project where, and I'm not going to grade you, by the way, on your claim either. I'm going to grade you based on the arguments you make and the evidence that you use. So you can claim something conservative, liberal. I don't think there could be a way to argue appropriately using evidence for something that's like crazy, but if you wanted to run it by me, we can talk about it. That being said, if you do want to run your topic by me, please do. Okay, so let's jump in. Pretty simple, 5-page paper. First, you're going to present an interesting ethical dilemma in a field of your interest. I would recommend using the field that you work in if you have a job right now, or the field that you are majoring in. Choose something that you really care about. If you really care about family dynamics, choose something about the family. If you really care about politics, choose something about politics. There's nothing that's off limits here. So you're going to present an ethical dilemma. You're going to frame it. So let's use whether or not it's acceptable to attempt to clone a human. So that I would present the ethical dilemma in the beginning of my paper. And I would frame it, right? So here's the issue. In China, actually, I've heard in China, they might be trying to clone humans. And their laws on genetics are way different from the United States, way more open in terms of things that we would consider to be unethical or that would limit our own doctors. But anyway, you frame it. Here's what's going on in the United States. China is a good example of how things might change. Here's some crazy guy who got a bunch of funding who's like in Switzerland somewhere, and he's just kind of doing it on his own in like a little Frankenstein lab. And then you present your thesis. Your thesis will be the thing that you're trying to argue for. So in this example, Let's say you argue that it is ethically irresponsible to clone a human. That would be your thesis. It's ethically irresponsible to clone a human. That's a pretty broad thesis. This is only a 5-page paper. You'll see here, if you think that there should be stricter gun laws, that's too broad. You could write 5,000 pages on that. So think, though, of a general topic and then try to create a thesis. Your thesis will be the ethical side that you're arguing for, or the side that you're arguing for. Okay, so that's 2 pages. So you're going to frame the issue in like a half a page, maybe a page, and then you're going to present your argument about, overview like a half page, and then present your argument in like a page and a half. You'll want, premises, just like you've been learning about in this class. Use premises to support your claims. So you'll present your argument. Human cloning is wrong because human life is qualitatively different from other animal life. There would be no parents really that could take care of these kids and whatever else, right? So I've framed a couple premises there. Thus, it's wrong. But the other thing you'll need to do is that you'll need to utilize, and you can see this here at the bottom, the logistical requirements. You need 4 academic articles that you get from the Boston College Library. The Wikipedia, newspaper, magazine, good places to start, but they are not academic. Academic resources, and actually you don't need articles, this should say resources. Academically published books, academically published articles, and then there are a few websites. Websites aren't great, like in the humanities. Well, I can't speak for all the humanities, but there's a couple websites in philosophy, like the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It's really good, probably academic. And then like the NOAA website for everything climate and weather patterns and stuff is like considered academic. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, people use that a lot, but there really aren't that many websites. So what I would recommend is going into the library, finding books and articles that relate to your topic. So in the first part of your paper here, let's say you use 2 academic sources to support your argument that you're making. Okay, so that's the first 2 pages. You frame it, you create your argument, you use a couple resources to support your claim. Then you're going to present a counterposition to your argument. So the counterposition will be the strongest. Remember to choose the strongest. This is a logic class, critical thinking. We don't want any straw men. We don't want any red herrings. We don't want any slippery slopes. Pick the strongest argument that you can think of against your position. Now you'll need to, hopefully in your research, you'll be reading both sides, all 7 sides of the issue, articles from different perspectives. So let's say you choose to use 2 academic sources there in your response, in your rebuttal of your original argument. So what you're trying to do actually is try to blow huge cannon holes into your original argument. Try to think like, who's my ultimate enemy? What would they say to humiliate me in front of all of my friends, to humiliate me at my dissertation defense, to humiliate me at work, to show that I'm wrong? And then in 2 pages, you will present the strongest counterposition possible. So in the realm of genetically modifying humans or cloning humans, there are some technically positive things that could happen. We could harvest organs and cells from those humans that could be used. We could do it when they were fetuses, and then that way they wouldn't be conscious. Maybe we could even grow those into like adult size and save people. I mean, that's a pretty good thing that could happen, right? Now, it's pretty horrific thinking about the way that would happen, which brings me to the final point. In the last page of your paper, spend half the page responding to the counterargument. So here's the response for the cloning of humans. Although there are these potentially positive benefits, like providing organs for currently existing humans, doing research, germ cell lines, stem cell lines that could be used to create drugs that fight diseases and things like that. We would have to do this by actually growing humans and then killing them. Yeah, so that's a pretty strong counter to the counter, right? So in the last page, about half of it, spend that half page trying to blow cannonball holes into the argument that you just presented against your own. And this is what in philosophy we tend to do. In an academic article in philosophy, you'll present your position, you'll present 3 or 4 of the strongest rebuttals of your position, and then you'll respond in the end and you'll essentially say, all those rebuttals are wrong and I'm right. Hopefully you have a little bit more intellectual humility, but really that's kind of what it comes down to, trying to be right. But so the last page, first half of it, respond to the counter argument, show why it fails, and you might use academic sources there as well. And then the last half page of the last page, and you can go more than 5 pages, but just make sure it's at least 5 pages. You will just wrap it up in a conclusion. And a good conclusion in philosophy kind of reframes the discussion and explains why you're essentially right and your position is the strongest position and why it's best for all humans, or why it's best for the best interpretation of something else. All right, so logistical requirements, 5 full pages. You can go more. I would say don't go more than 7. Try to keep it concise. Don't just write down everything that you read from the articles. You'll need at least 4 academic resources. Again, I would recommend academically published books and articles from the library. If you want to run your thesis by me, please do. I'll provide feedback. And then I'd finally here, I just mentioned that I will not grade you on your political or social positions. I mean, if you argue for something like molesting children, I don't think you could really find a lot of academic evidence that would support that claim, and I think there's a strong counter argument to it. So maybe don't go that extreme, but I guess I would still grade you on the merits of your argument. But if you are more conservative, in general, higher education seems to be more progressive, and sometimes more conservative people feel afraid to express their opinions. I'm not afraid to hear your opinions, and I will judge your opinions on the merits of the evidence that you provide, not my own personal political and social beliefs. So that's just kind of my disclaimer. All right, so I'm going to do a follow-up to this video because I think I'm already at probably 10 or 15 minutes. But where I'm going to talk about the way that you should approach research. Research for this, and I'll just quickly frame it right now. When you read things, start, and other faculty might disagree with me, and that's fine. We can have an argument about it in the logical sense, not the mean sense. Find something you're really interested in. Start reading everything you can find on the web, even the crazy stuff on Facebook or whatever else. InfoWars, or I think they banned that now, or whatever. Immerse yourself in the conversation. Read The Economist, Time Magazine, New York Times. You can go even more extreme. Watch Fox News. Watch MSNBC. Get oriented in the conversation. Now, but don't use all that information and stop there. Get your idea so that it is more clear, more concise, and so that you have a good background knowledge. Then, once you have your idea and how it's framed, or at the same time that you're doing all of that, go to the library and search keywords related to your topic. Go to Google Scholar. So the way that I like to do it is if you find an article in the library that you like, or a book, you can often go to the reference list of the articles or books, and there'll be a bunch of articles listed. You can either try to find those articles in the library itself, or I've found great success in just looking up the names of the articles on Google Scholar. There's often, I don't know if they're illegally posted, but there's often a PDF of the article. It's usually from some college website. So there's a couple ways to find those relevant articles that you might find. So while you're immersing yourself in the everyday discussion that's usually not the greatest, but still will give you a good grounding in the topic, go into the library and start reading more academic articles related to the specific point that you make. So for example, don't talk about illegal immigration, way too broad of a topic. But if you want to talk about the economic impact of migrant workers in California on fruit and vegetable production, and what would happen if they weren't allowed to work in the United States or whatever, you can go in and start looking at economic impact of immigrants, economic impact of illegal immigrants, economic impact of immigrants on fruit and vegetable farms, California. You can start searching all of that stuff and getting into the literature. So I hope that helps in how to approach this. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me.